like for long.
Okay, okay, you driving?
Yeah,
Okay, well that's cool. You just out and about on a Thursday.
yeah, basically.
Okay, we were talking about some tech stuff earlier, and uh, I was a little bit I was a little bewildered by Sandman's comment about on the his latest video today between 6:30 and 6:50, where he said that the monks of Mgtow should just go gay or just say they're gay, and then it was like that really it kind of threw me that for like what is he talking about?
Well, I mean, I haven't seen it because I'm advocating calling yourself a transgender lesbian, but I'm saying that more for to avoid being discriminated against as a man, and to
Yeah,
maybe skim off the top of that SJW, privilege pie. But I mean, if you're celibate, it doesn't make you gay, and
yeah, that's
saying you're gay doesn't necessarily mean anything if you're celibate. I mean, I guess you could be celibate and gay, but you could be celibate and straight. There's really no difference, I guess. But what advantage is it? It sounds like I'd have to listen to it in context. But if he's just like digging at monks for some reason, then that's fucked up.
yeah, yeah. It was that's what I thought. It was just kind of a little hit, but I thought there, being celibate is probably what he kind of came up with the monk thing and kind of coined it, and he's saying,
Yeah,
and he can't get his mind off of and it's what one of the guys just did a video on this. If you're thinking when the blue pillars come around here, they automatically think you guys aren't actively involving yourself with girls, so are you doing guys? And I
well,
was
yeah, they're so like fixated on sex. That's all they can
they're
think about.
fixated. Yeah, they're fixated on sex. That's all they think of. That's what I got from Sandman's comment. Is he's so fixated on sex, he can't get it over his mind that just being celibate and getting things done is a is is a better way to do things. When you are celibate, you have more time, more money to accomplish things in your life.
Well, I think there's projection on both sides. So, like the original Monks of Mgtow video was from, Louis Marco, right? He's that
Hmm.
bodybuilder who did the Mgtow content and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah,
So he was on a date with a woman, and because he started making Mgtow content, some of his subscribers were basically chewing him out for being on a date with a woman, which is stupid because like Barbarossa as a girlfriend, he's like the granddaddy of Mgtow. And I would never begrudge a man for proper dick moisturization.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but but there are people, I guess it's I don't know, like I don't care. Like the thing is like my problem with PUAs is the way they seek female validation. If they just use
Right.
women for sex, I don't think anyone would have a problem with them. But it's the way they rate themselves and their manliness based on their ability to achieve female validation, and that's the gynocentric part of it. So there's like the kind of purple pill PUA MGTOWs project onto the monks that they are trying to judge them for um, dating and having sex. But then, but then the monks project onto the purple pill PUAs that they're obsessed with sex. And I think it's not either one of those extremes. I think there's just a lot of projection going on. I
Yeah,
think we actually
there's a
agree.
happy medium.
We agree on far, yeah, we agree on far more than we differ, and I just think a healthy respect for people's individual choices. I mean, like I was watching a Messenger Rising video, and he's like the the extreme monk kind of stereotype. Like when people think of a monk, they think of Messenger Rising. And in this video, he was just basically warning men, think about the risks and the benefits. And I completely agree with that. When you look at the cost benefit analysis of dating and sex, it's really not worth it.
It's
But,
really not worth it. Yeah,
but that was all he was saying. He wasn't saying you're not a real MGTOW if you have sex. He's just saying you need to do the cost benefit analysis. and come to your own conclusion. And
Right.
so, and this is Messenger Rising, who's like berated as this terrible person who hates everybody who gets laid once in a while. So I think there's just a lot of it's making a mountain out of a molehill. It's like, go get your dick wet, have fun, but be careful. You know, bring some spare condoms, put some horseradish sauce in them. So don't get sperm jacked, don't believe a woman who says she's on the pill. Watch out for false rape allegations. I mean, there's a lot of things to watch out for. But if getting your dick wet is that important to you, whatever, man. But like, it's your life. But just be careful. That's all my.
Be careful. That's all we're saying. There's seems to be opposite ends of the bar we start at, and it depends which which side of the bar you're coming from. On one side of the bar, there's say the monks, and the other side there's totally involved with women, the blue pill guys.
I think it's an age thing, because most of the blue pill guys I talk to are in their 20s.
Yeah.
And most of the monks I talk to are in their 30s and 40s.
Yeah.
So I think, and like, because I'm in my 30s, and you know, the hormones level off.
Oh,
I remember
yeah,
when I was in my 20s, you couldn't stop me. Like, if I would have discovered Mgtow 10 years ago, I would probably be a purple pill kind of PUA Mgtow. And anybody trying to tell me not to have sex or seek sex, I would tell them to fuck off. Because, you know, like, the hormones are just in the driver's seat when you're in your 20s.
Yeah, they are.
But,
we've seen rare examples of that around here with 20-year-old men kind of, say, no, it's not worth it. Well, and that's what they're saying. I think it's a lot about etiquette, too, like what you talk about and what you don't talk about in these spaces.
Well, and also, if you look at some of my earlier videos, when I first started my video channel, I was kind of like in that purple pill phase. Like, I did that video about sexual marketplace value and treating women like assholes for fun and profit. But that was what really turned me was yes means yes. Once I kind of internalized and came to the realization that women you could be convicted of rape on a woman's word alone with no evidence. There's not shit you can do about it.
Right.
And if you have assets, you have a huge target on your back, because a woman could basically blackmail you and say, you know, I'm gonna file a false rape allegation against you unless you give me money or unless you do this and that, because there's no standard of evidence for a woman because of yes means yes. And so, you know, your average broke 20-year-old trying to get his dick wet, he probably doesn't have too much to worry about as long as he doesn't stick his dick in crazy. But if you have significant assets and women are trying to get to those assets and they know they can file a false rape, and I've been accused of rape before. When I was in high school, I was falsely accused of rape, and I know what that's like.
Yeah,
so fuck that. Like,
most states have a 7 year. I don't know if they removed that. It's a 7 year and 4 months. I don't know how they got that number. About you can file a complaint like that after that, and a lot of states have been removing that. Now, putting yourself in that kind of if you know a woman's like that and she runs into dire, what you have to do is project into the future. What am I going to become? If I become a millionaire, then I got all this stuff hanging over me from 7 years, 8 years in the past.
Well, not only that, also the definition of rape changes. So, for example, Bill Cosby, he was giving women drugs and having sex with them in the 80s, because that's how you had sex in the 80s. You did drugs and had sex. It was the 80s. But now that the definition of rape has changed, any sex with any substance, alcohol, drugs, now that's automatic rape. Even if the woman's like begging for it, pulling your pants down, begging for the dick, if she has drugs or alcohol in her system, she's never raped. So because of now, Bill Cosby's a rapist. So all these women he had sex with like 30 years ago are coming out of the woodwork to get one more payday.
Right. Yeah, and it's about hypergamy. We've seen the story of the woman that divorced her husband, and then 6 years later or so, he turned into some tech genius that made millions and millions of dollars. Now she's coming back at him.
Call me, and it keeps cutting off the Google Hangout.
Okay.
And it's fucking with my Bluetooth. So I'm going to have to let you go because they keep calling me back. So this isn't going to work out. I apologize.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot for coming in. It was nice talking to you again. It's always good talking to you, TFM.
All right, bye.
Yeah, good talking to you, TFM. Well, and then there were two.
And then we're back down to the original now. Okay. Yeah, where is Shining at? He said he wanted to moderate today.
Yes, I assume he's maybe in the chat room rather than here.
Yeah, I put a link in the chat room too for him. Okay, but that's an interesting thing with you know, you're putting yourself in jeopardy for years and years and years to come, and there's that silver bullet with the way the laws are going on with a woman at a drop of a dime can attach yourself to your future wealth.
That is a huge thing one should consider when one is striving to become something.
Right. Yeah. When you're striving, like at the main time, you have these sexual drives going, you're going to be 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 years old. That's your college years. So you're doing these things, you're having fun, you're working on your future. But then after that, you go out into the business world, and that's where you start obtaining your wealth, obtaining your future, how good you are. And then, you know, God, I could see this happening so much where a woman comes back 4, 5, 6 years. He got his PhD, and now his value has raised to, you know, well over 6 figures. And she can come and attach to that with a simple word of, you know, it's the silver bullet, it's rape. And even now, I see a lot of these cases which are they're using the terminology of sexual assault.
Mm-hmm.
Now, sexual assault, man, that could be from verbal abuse to, you know, pushing her out of the house because you didn't want her there, or you know, being rough, or you know, or if it's drug, like TFM was saying, if it's drug or alcohol oriented sex, which happens a lot. We all know that. You're at the bar, you're having a few drinks,
Or because you just spanked her on the ass.
Yeah, or you just spank her on the ass, and she'll say, "Well, that happened. She wanted me to do that," and she's all of a sudden saying, "No, she didn't want me to do that." It's like, oh,
I would have to say that you're actually acquiring your wealth well before your 30s. In fact, you're most energetic and most creative,
right.
you know, when you're, you know, 17 and upwards, during when you just start college and going outward. Because most, for example, of the work for the Nobel Prize in Physics was done by the physicists by the age of 27, but they received their Nobel Prizes for that. That work was finally recognized, was published, and so on, you know, much later in their years, 20 years later. But most of the ideas, if you will read biographies, by the physicists were done by the age of 27. In fact, there's, you know, pretty much common saying and understanding in the physicists and mathematicians circles is that if you haven't done your best work by the age of 34, you're probably not going to be able to do anything later on, because it's just you're most creative during those years, most energetic. You can dedicate the most amount of time. You know, it's just all those things combined. So that early time should be used wisely.
Right. Yeah. It's you should be very, very careful, and that's what we say around here. You know, err with caution. It just makes good sense to err with caution when you're doing these things, and that's where I think Sandman and a lot of the producers get us very confused. Well, at my age, there's very little chance of me getting a woman pregnant, because most of them are most of the women I date are between 42 now and 50. They're not gonna their biological clock is done, run out, so I don't have to worry about that. And I've been, you know, I've been through I've been through so many relationships that, like you were saying earlier, man, I can't even remember most of their names anymore.
Yeah, and, yeah.
It comes down to, is sex going to change? Are women going to change? No, none of that's going to change. It's gonna. There's nothing for me to learn there.
You just, it's a repeat of the same thing again and again and again. They say the same thing, they act the same way. They're pretty much the same person.
Right, pretty much the same person, just one wears a little different makeup. One wears, one's a little taller, one's a little fatter, one's a little skinnier. It's all the same stuff. After a while, it gets very boring, very mundane, and it's I think sometimes I remember at the end of my dating life, I'm sitting there on a date, and I'm thinking, geez, I need to mow the grass, and I could be working on my house, and I'm thinking about all the things that I could be getting done that I need to be getting done, or I got that truck there, and it needs hoses or it needs pumps, and I could be doing that right now rather than being out on a date, and you just say, this is not. It all becomes not worth it. So your testosterone levels off, and you start thinking about things very, very, very logically, very rationally.
And you don't just lose the time that you spend with her. I mean, there's also the time
Right.
wasted afterwards, the mental cycle spent on dealing with all the bullshit and everything else. Yeah. So I would, if you're trying to achieve something, it's definitely would be useful to at least some way restrict the time you waste on that.
Yeah, like you said earlier, it was a it was a very logical statement. Every second you waste, you're not going to get back. It's gone time. We only have one life to live. How we choose to live our lives is, there's better decisions to be made.
And there's these days there's just so much to do, so much to see. There's already not enough time in a day to get things done as is. I mean,
Hmm. Yeah, if you're simply trying to learn about something, you're reading a book, or you can study online now and do something like that. You'll find that one thing a day is pretty much it, and you delegate that time uh, and be responsible about your time. And that's what most people look back in their lives. And I see a lot of old people, even my parents, when they were dying, they look back in their lives and they say, if there's one thing I would have changed in my life is how all those moments that I was doing nothing, when I was screwing around, I could have did something more pleasurable, or something more was I could have learned this, or I could have learned, and that becomes your bucket list. And your bucket list grows and grows and grows, and then you have all these regrets rather than you know, fulfilled sections of your life that are really shining. And it's the difference between dying happy and dying regretful, isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, what have you read or watched any interesting things that you would recommend?
Oh, this week?
Yeah.
Oh God, I bought a few books this week. I was really interested in the male. It's sort of psychology stuff, but so I was reading a lot of Jung this week, and that's where Messenger. You get Messenger and to talk about Jung. He'll probably talk about him all day. But
Is that the one who wrote the book called On Pain?
yeah, Jung was a philosopher during the 1920s, I think it was, and he did a lot of research, on the ideas of individuality and
Right.
stuff like that. And so the original idea was this male. We talk about male mother need, but isn't there a male father need too?
I suppose.
Yeah, if there's one thing, if this be true, this must be true too. There's always if if you got one thing and the idea, it must be true in the opposite way for the opposite gender. Uh, so I was looking at male father need, and the young men that have not had fathers in their lives, and they project this male father need. Uh, onto us sometimes, and I was curious. I was just curious how to. You look on the internet, you look around for books and everything, and usually you'll find a lot of Christians writing about fathers and bringing the family back together because they have something to gain from it.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll talk about it, but they always bring it to back to traditionalism, the family, and that kind of stuff. And there's not a lot of well, it's still taboo in the social circles to talk about young boys and how they feel about their fathers and how they need their fathers to make them emotionally set in life, and that emotional it's still taboo for males to talk about those emotions. As long as they're projected as female emotions, everybody goes yay and they clap their hands. But as soon as a male starts talking about how emotionally a male child may need his father in his life to guide him and to build male emotions in a proper way, in a proper settings, nobody wants to talk about it, and it's one of those things that are still taboo in our society. So I did read parts and pieces of Tim Patton's book. I ordered that this week, and then I was working on the animation. I use it for mechanical drawing, actually, so I can
What
actually
software are you using? Are you using Blender?
for the animation.
Yeah.
No, I'm using Anime 9.
Ah.
Oh shit! I just opened it. Yeah, it's just Anime Studios. It's Debut 11. I'm using.
See. Yeah,
Debut.
Blender is another one. It's also pretty good. You can do your 3D designs. So you can. It's kind of like AutoCAD, but you can also do animation in it. It's not bad.
Yeah. See, I don't have I don't have no AutoCAD or anything like that, and I'd like to get that. I was first looking at doing that, getting something on AutoCAD,
Uh-huh.
but so you can actually you can give it the scales, and then you can get the what do you call that, the grid.
Right. Yeah. So then, 123D is a good
Yeah,
one. It's simple to use, but it's very very good. And Blender. Those are two which are free, and they're very well designed. Very easy to use.
yeah. So those are good if you're drawing and you want to see what's going to happen with your drawing, and you're trying to conceptualize this stuff. And my problem was I was working with a circle at first, and then but the circle was inverted on a 45, which in a regular drawing just looks like a line, you know. But I had a 45-degree chamfer on it, and I needed to put another 45-degree rim on it, and I needed to show it in an angle where you can know where it is and know that it's going to turn
Mhm.
as a gear, but you couldn't really get that from a lot of the other from just mechanical drawing. And I took mechanical. I'm sure you took a bunch of mechanical drawing
Mhm.
courses too, which is drafting. Did they still call it drafting when you went to school?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where you learn how to use your AutoCAD and that, and then put the things in. But I've been using this. It's just a cheap little animation program where I can actually go in and I can make it spin. It'll keep. I can put the 45s on it, and it's nice. And then I can do at the same time. It'll leave me room to do 3 views. The one view, the side view, the top view, and the front view.
Right.
And it's kind of nice, but conceptualizing these things in your mind sometimes gets very difficult, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. But and these softwares, they really do, these tools, they do help with that,
Oh
because
God, yes.
you don't have to keep the entire thing in your head. You can work on it. You can see it and you can modify it. And right now, these days, with the personal fabricators, meaning the small 3D printers, the small CNC machines that you can get, you can pretty much develop and design everything in comfort of your own home for about, in under $2,000, $3,000. You can have almost top of the line small. I'm not saying it's a large CNC machine or large 3D printers, but for $3,000 you can have a very good one, like the one I mentioned before, the Wasp Evo. It's it's a 3D printer, and you can change the heads from 3D printing to CNC. So you can do CNC, and you can just upload the files from your CAD tool, like the Blender or the 123D, and either build up thing using the 3D printing or mill something with your CNC setup. And it's only $2,500.
25. And with that, you get your program, so you have to be able to see what you're doing. Do you have any? Do they have extensions to those programs on there?
No, it's pretty much you can use whatever you want with them. You literally just attach that machine, the 3D printer or the CNC or the dual one, like the Wasp Evo. You just attach to your computer. You can use whatever you have. It's up to you. You can use the 123D. You can use a Blender. As long you just need to basically be able to output, export a .stl file or some other type of file. But the STL is the most common one, and the slicer can then use it to build up the layers that can be either accumulated by 3D printing or removed when you're doing CNC.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the dichotomy. There's a dichotomy slicer in there, and it does the layering, sort of like in an MRI, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really neat stuff.
That's how it builds up things. With the 3D printer, that's exactly what it does. It's basically your slicer program does that, and then it builds up those layers one at a time.
Yeah, no, that's neat stuff. The MRI, when you get the dichotomy of something, and it gives you the little slices, and you can pull one up, and they can flip it. And it's probably the same thing with the machining now and in the 3D printers, because it's all, it was expensive at first, but the programs, they got to keep selling them, don't they?
Yeah, well, like I said, the technology right now is exceptionally cheap. For smaller 3D printers with a volume of about 4 cubic inches, you can get it for $400. And there are the larger printers, which are still cheap. They don't have all the nice, fancy stuff, but they're pretty good. For about $700, you can get a volume of about 9 cubic inches.
9 cubic inches? 9 cubic inches is pretty good for, you can make, I'm kind of sizing that out in my head right here. Yeah, that's a pretty good part. Now, this whole thing came in with people was, we're going to build a 3D printing gun.
And there are 3D printed guns, and you can find a lot of designs. I think it's, I forgot the website. I can send it to you later on. Defense something. And they released, of course, the first one was the Liberator gun. And then they have created a bunch of other things, and now you can shoot more than once before you need to change the barrels. And with the new, of course, materials like the nylon, and polycarbonate that you can print with, and even carbon fiber infused PLA. Now you can they're much more robust, these same guns.
Right. Some of the parts make a lot more sense, like your lower receiver. If you wanted to make your lower receiver, that would make sense because there's not a lot of stress on the lower receiver. It's just mechanical parts that need high tolerance.
Right.
Now, when you start talking about your upper receiver and your barrel, you got to know that, you might need some milling or some strength there, unless you're using a sort of a low velocity nylon bullet.
But right now they have the fully printed 3D printed gun. But like I said, after a few shots, you have to change the barrel.
Change the barrel
because the barrel is also, it's not metal, so and of course it's not going to be as accurate as the real thing. But these are very interesting things. And with portable small CNC machines, now you can actually maybe create the entire thing.
Yeah, that was an NSA nightmare, wasn't it, when they first started looking at it?
Yeah, they got the guy who uploaded the 3D parts, the STL files. Those were taken off, so you cannot find it on Thingiverse, but you can still find it online. You can find it on, of course, BitTorrent, and you can find it directly from the defense site.
Yeah, so pretty much the one for $400 that you sent me, that was about a 6-inch, 5-inch, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was I think it was 5 cubic inches.
Yeah, no, that's pretty good for modeling and building. You can't there were some guys that were building. They were using 3D welders, in the 3D printers and with welders to try to build bridges. I don't even know how that went. They started that in Sweden, wasn't it?
I
And
think so, but you're not limited to the size of the printer, because you can just make the same part in multiple sections, and then you can snap them together. You
right, you
design
can
it that
snap
way.
parts together. Right, yeah. So when you're talking about something as intricate as a rifle or a gun or something, that these parts all go together, and then you can make your the size becomes like a. But on they were talking about building bridges and buildings and stuff like that with 3D printers, and that was that's quite a bit in the future.
Well,
Actually,
actually,
welders.
they actually do have very large. Design is similar to the 3D printers. Very large versions that sort of deposit instead of plastics cement.
Cement. Oh,
Yeah, I will
yes.
find that video. So they actually did that as well a few years ago. We'll need to find the video to share it with you, but it's actually very interesting.
Yeah, that would be interesting with the cement. I was kind of going over that in my head. What uses for cement, and you can get a like nylon cement would be. You can build a structure inside the cement that would be more durable than just a monolithic piece that's likely to crack.
Now, it might sound like some kind of futuristic thing, but it's actually they did 3D print nearly an entire building. I am linking you to first the wiki page on the right,
Wiki page? Okay.
and another one, the actual list of 3D printing walls and buildings.
Mm-hmm. Now cement's come a long way too, because you got the air blown cement, you got the cement with the nylons added, and you got all sorts of fibers that are introduced that you can make it really, really strong. I don't see them getting away without using structural steel on a building a small building that's the structure's close to the ground, but once you start stacking these things, there's so much more pressures. So the structural steel would be I would think that would be out of the question. Replacing
Yeah, you have to reinforce them. That's correct.
You have to reinforce it or give a frame, but that's once you got your frame, you can attach a cement right to it to a I-beam, and that'll just crawl up and crawl around the I-beam and add where it needs to add. And the engineers just sit down there and they go, okay, we want to add some here, we want to add some here, or you can we will do some welding here, we'll put a structure in here, and then it all becomes a building. That's really cool. The idea going over in your head, and then I'm sure there's some really great graphics on this stuff that the people are doing. It's really exciting.
Yeah, so here's the link to you guys on the site here. It's www.all3dp.com/biggest-3d-printers-world. And those are the largest 3D printers. One of them is you will see is 3D printing wall sections for a building. So that's kind of interesting.
Okay. Oh yeah, I've seen this one. He was building the. It looks like a frame, and they're using a some kind of. That would be the structure, like rebar. They're making sort of a rebar frame for some kind of building. Yeah, I was watching this one, and they go underneath the explain, and this goes on the same idea as engineered lumber, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We know when you buy your engineered lumber, you're usually doing it for the structural for structurally around your doors, because you want to keep your house intact. So you buy a piece of 3D lumber, and the idea behind that's a laminate. You got one laminate going one way, one laminate. You got a center fill, which we've seen with the welder that he was building a frame for the center fill, and they're laminating over that. So if it bends one way, it's resistant one way, and if it bends the other way with the laminate, but you can take that from that simple idea of engineered wood to a larger structural situation.
Well, they're hoping to eventually basically use this method to build, actual buildings once we get more advanced, because the technology is improving. Before we were only able to deal with very, very simple plastics. Now we can deal with more complex filaments. Like I said, the carbon fiber. We can print carbon fiber. It's not true carbon fiber, but it's a plastic embedded with carbon fiber strands. It's almost there, polycarbonate. So now there are 3D printers that can deal with temperatures up to 400 plus, 450, I think, is the Ord Solutions one.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can now deal with that. And eventually they're hoping to do some kind of metal deposition as well. Now, right now, you already have plastics with metal particles embedded in them.
Yeah.
And so you can print conductive sort of like wiring using this approach. But later on, we could eventually get to the point where we can, 3D print metallic parts at a cost-effective way. They're already doing that in larger industrial versions, but I'm talking about, the cheaper ones that you can afford and have in your own apartment or house for a couple of $1,000s. And we're getting there.
Yeah, we're getting there. You can, hey, pretty soon you better just, you need a new bowl or a new cup. You just punch it in your kitchen and say, I need another bowl. And then an hour later you come back and there it is. It's a very, very futuristic, isn't it? It's almost like the food processor on Star Trek.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because the company that makes 3D printers, let's say the Ord Solutions one, they're also developing right now a 3D printer that can 3D print in clay or pretty much anything else you put in there, including chocolate. So you can 3D print various designs, and you can then 3D print food. Sort of,
I
you
did
make
read
designs.
that,
For it's so posh restaurant. You can make it a 3D designs for particular foods that you would otherwise do by hand.
So kitchen use, and now we're starting to integrate, and this always happens when we start integrating technology. It's we started with a functional fixedness here, and we were thinking some guy was thinking printing a gun to get it through a metal detector or something, and then so another guy said, no, we can use this for a lot more, and we become functionally fixed on something. But once you start thinking out of the box, kitchen uses, automotive uses, garage uses, or a centralized unit in your house, which everybody can have. It'll do some basic cooking, and it could also do a lot of other things. We just have to think out of the box on this thing, don't we?
Yes, and then as time goes on, whereas before you had to develop your own thing, like the original Maker project, RepRap, and other things. Here, everything is simplified. You can just go to a place like Thingiverse.com, download the design, and your 3D printer will start printing it, and you don't have to mess with it too much. So things are becoming also easier to use, even if you're not familiar with the technology. Now, whether that is good or bad, that's another interesting subject domain to discuss. Is it better that things are so easy to use? Well, on the one hand, that means you can specialize in another area and use things like this simply as a tool. On the other hand, it means people who don't know anything, cannot develop anything, and only leech off of, let's say, another gender. They can, use this stuff for nothing and then just use our labors for their own thing, and then eventually even start rewriting the history and saying that they've created the first 3D printers.
And
there's this one as well.
That's what you always get. Your narcissism hijacks the institution. Now I can see that if we think about this in a sense that in the future you'll be able to, my car is broken down. You push a button on your car, the technology tells you which parts you're going to need. The part number goes to the 3D printer. The 3D printer prints up the part, but you still have to install the part and take out the old part. That's where the male masculinity is needed, because you're still going to have to put a wrench on it. You're still going to have to get your hands down in their oil products or whatever, and you're still going to have to do that. But it makes it very easy for it will make it very easy for the local, your family unit to and you can go out and if you're looking for a part and it doesn't come up, you can go on the internet and go, okay, I need this part. What's the part number? It'll send you the schematic for the part, and then your 3D printer. Can you ever see the electronics being integrated into these things?
Yeah, you now can, well, to some right now, to some extent you can. Like I said, because of that whole brass and stainless
Yeah.
steel particle infused plastics, you now can do the kind of a little bit of electronics. And there's also more specialized printers that can deposit wiring.
Right. So if you're, say, what would be a car part that we can use? A cam adjuster. You got two cam adjusters in a car now on each side, and then you got a center cam adjuster that you don't have to do the timing on your car anymore and stuff like that. These things are very simple. They run. It runs on a capacitor which goes to one side. You got 1 to 100. 1 to 100 goes and it modulates in where the cam needs to be. Laying the electronics on that through some liquid type of brass or some low heat brass or copper would be very easy, and then sealing it, because what these things also do, we talked about this a little earlier, you can buy the enclosed unit where the environment is now regulated.
Right.
And then, but that's been the problem. Well, if you kept up with, during our lifetimes, you couldn't produce computer parts in certain states or certain areas because the environment was not suitable for that. But now with these little, 3D printing units, the environment's controlled. You can get some thermoplastics that go very high in heat. With these thermoplastics, they put in thermoplastics on exhaust for furnaces now.
Mm-hmm.
And they will take. I'm not sure what the actual grade on that is, but they will take quite a bit of heat and not bend, not flex. And now you can put that as around a 3D printer and now print a computer part, or you'd probably be even a USB port. If you needed a USB port, you could say, I need a new USB port. Which one do I got? Go say I need a new USB port for my computer. It prints it out. Uses they're just basic electric schemes, which they're there, if you just figure it out, and you don't even have to really do any thinking on these things, because everything's on a computer, printed out, and there you go, my new part for computers, for cars, even your lawnmower. Geez.
Well, actually, for example, the Tallman 3D, that's one of the filament producers. They're, for example, they're producing and selling one filament called T glass, also known as tough glass, and
Okay.
that one is FDA approved to be used with food products. So here you can, for example, directly use it for making cups, utensils, whatever you want, and it can come.
Yeah.
And it's FDA approved for being used with your food products. So there you go.
Right. There you go. Yeah, they're incorporating higher laser systems on this, so it would be like sort of a welder, or the idea of a MIG or a TIG, basically a TIG because it's so small, but glass.
No, it's just a filament. It's just a filament. That's clear filament.
A clear filament.
It has a slightly higher melting temperature, but like I said, the 3D printers now can deal with that. So this particular filament, you can now print, glass. Like it's not really. It's more like what the bottles are made of. Those shaker bottles that are very difficult to break, or those large water bottles, Alhambra, large bottles. That kind of clarity.
Oh, the nylon, the sort of whitish nylon, yeah.
Yeah, but they're semi-clear. They're clear enough. So, and that material has been FDA approved to be used with food products. So now,
right, because they're very sterile.
Right. So now you can print, your cups, your utensils, anything you need to deal with food. And a lot of people also, for example, now starting small businesses where they are 3D printing custom parts to sell. So custom plates, and then you sell it. A kilogram of that particular material might cost you $40.
Okay.
But then you can print, 20 or so plates and sell each one for about $20 or $30. If it's custom, then the
Yeah.
profit margin is high, and you can do that. And those are some of the new businesses popping up.
Right. There's a whole aspect of business. If you're just a regular, you're a person sitting at home. You want to run an online business. You get your product. You start printing them and selling them. It's very easy, uh, and it doesn't just, man. Just look around you at any point in your life. Just look around, hundreds and hundreds of products just in your house. It makes it easier it will make it very easy for people to start their own home businesses. It aids in our economy. Definitely will aid in our economy.
Yeah.
Uh, just have to learn a little, sit down with it. Uh, it's like any art. You're not gonna, overnight. You're not gonna be able to draw or build a perfect wall or or make it something so beautiful. You have to work on your craft, and once you work on your craft becomes, the market will, your craft, if your craft is appealing, then people like it and people will buy it. 3D printers come it'll be very useful in the future for businesses, home start businesses.
There already are, like I said, there are a lot of small businesses that are popping up that are producing the custom parts, small custom parts for all kinds of stuff. Even jewelry, if you want to do that, you can do that. Or for example, phone, a wrapper for your phone, so that when you drop it, it doesn't break. You can print it out in nylon or some other material and make it custom with custom name and everything else that your client wants.
Yeah.
That's one of the things you can do.
Oh
Or if
yeah.
you're doing one of those, the quadcopters we have been recently discussing. A lot of people are
Right.
now in that area. They're printing their own quadcopter airframes, camera holders, and everything else, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Quadcopters are sort of driving the business. It's sort of like the theme. NASA was working on sending rockets to the moon, but what other businesses did we get from that? That research, that technology, that basically everything you look at, a lot of things you look at, come from the NASA research on the space program. So now we have this new program and this new tech that after people lose the functional fixedness in their head that this can only print so many things, they start getting creative. Oh yeah, I could see this thing happening big time.
That's actually a very good point. For example, if you're somewhere in an isolated environment,
Right.
let's say North Pole or South Pole, one of those small research locations, working, for example, for one of defense contracting, or if you're, I don't know, in our mirror station, and you need a small part. Now
Oh
you don't need to know ahead of time what kind of small parts you need. But if something breaks, you can print it out, you know, from uh, from one of the filaments you have,
yeah, you
and
can
it's
use
right
that
there. So
on.
this can also be, it's very useful for these isolated locations where it is not easy to simply order something immediately when you need something from a company if something breaks down.
You're not going to get there's no companies in space right now, but being able to manufacture a small part, and that's usually what happens with space technology, as something breaks and you only have one. Uh, Now they can do that work right there in the or get them something that some kind of they can do it so it'll get them by till they can get back into a port, back to, if it's yeah, I could see these things in a space station. uh Space, you got to have some kind of, everything needs maintenance, everything breaks down, right? uh
Yeah.
no matter how we try to make parts last, uh we have to live in the world we live in, and with that becomes degeneration, doesn't it? Everything degenerates. It's just kind of a natural science of decay.
Yeah. Another interesting type of plastic that's been developed by Tallman 3D is semi-soft plastic that can be molded after you put it in hot water. So they're selling it to be used for prosthetics. So you can 3D print prosthetics. You can also 3D print casts. So if you broke some,
Cast.
yeah, for like so you, instead of using the traditional cast,
Yeah.
you can 3D print a cast and then use for whatever part that is broken, and so a little bit more
Oh
open,
God.
more airy, and so on. And
Yeah.
with regards to the softer filament and softer plastic, that one is for prosthetics. So you can 3D print something that's already molded to your leg, but then you can put it under hot water and then mold it even further to whatever body part that you're using the prosthetic for.
Yeah.
And it's soft and it's more comfortable. So these are some of the things that are popping up right now. And before, this is even 3D printing in general would sound like science fiction, but now, it's quite incredible. You can 3D print such intricate and interesting structures on the robotic parts, and I mean, there's a lot of things you can do right now with that type of technology, and
Oh
like I said,
yeah.
it's very affordable.
Yeah, it is
Very
very
affordable.
affordable. Yeah, now I can see a hospital buying a large unit and being able to afford a large unit. And like you were saying with the modern nylons and everything, if they needed syringes, if they needed syringe holders, or even a cast like you were talking about, we've all broken our arms, right?
Yeah.
We've all broken our wrists. We know you got to go in and they wrap that stuff around there, and there's a drying period, and you can't shower. You got to put it in a plastic bag and everything. Now these materials with the 3D printer, you put your hand inside of a scanner, it scans it, and it forms the cast perfectly. You can put a nylon zipper on there, or a some kind of clipping unit or a fastener,
Right.
and the cast will be so much more. It'll be so much more comfortable.
Of
And
course, the medical facility will be charging you not $2 that they spent on actually printing and the filament cost and the electricity cost, but they will be charging you a couple of $1,000s.
yeah,
So,
they're still gonna make their money on it because they're greedy bastards.
and they will say, "Well, this is a custom built one. This is even better than the original one.
It's
This is not
better,
just
yeah.
normal casting. This is a future technology cast." So they will charge you even more, even though it costs less. So
Yeah, I can see that. My friend just went to the VA just the other day. He broke his thumb, and they put one of those, and they're so behind at the VA. This would be great for VA work. They can cut their costs. He waited almost, it was like 5 hours to get before the cast people got, in this scenario with the 3D printer, you do that before you go in and get your x-rays. And then at some certain point when the doctor notices a microfracture or fracture, he just presses the button on the computer and it starts printing it. And then an hour later, everything's done. So it cuts time for the patients too.
yeah,
Which time is valuable for a lot of people. Hospital visits and everything. Can you ever see this being used for human parts?
they do for prosthetics
For
and
prosthetics?
casts.
Yeah, prosthetics cast, say, if you can come up with a calcinated product, which would not be rejected by if you smash a bone beyond repair, they might be able to in the future make a bone to replace a segment. I could see that happening.
Yeah, theoretically that's about actually, and also they're using it very much in robotics now. Obviously for just small robotic parts, but also that Atlas robot by Boston Dynamics, the human-sized robot and the one that's been all the challenges by Department of Defense, so on. They're now printing more organic type of leg actuators using 3D printing technology. So it's
Okay.
more energy efficient and so on.
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah.
a lot of interesting stuff they're doing.
Oh yeah, there's some people have latex allergies too, so you can't use latex, and I've noticed a big problem when a person with latex allergies comes into the hospital, and now they can 3D print something up in a nylon for use, or there's a lot of rejection. There's you have a variety of things you can use, a variety of choices you have. You can use these things for. That'd be great. Do you will the hospitals actually, if this gets into, we know how HHS and Human Services work in the United States. You think they'd screw that up?
No, I think they will. I think they will use. Like I said, there are filaments that are already FDA approved. So I think they will use it. I think they're actually already starting to use it for some parts. But they're just going to charge you an arm and a leg for it.
Yeah. Most people don't know. Most people, I think, the common American that's watching the Oprah show right now, or the three ladies on in the morning with Ozzy Osbourne's wife, and they're interested in that sort of stuff. They're gonna not question how much the part costs or what. They're just glad to have it, aren't they? And they're gonna pay that price.
Yeah. But I would highly recommend to anybody who's listening to look into that technology and see what kind of business you can come up with. If you're young, if you're interested in maybe doing some kind of startup or doing something, or interested in some kind of technology where you need to manufacture parts, this is something to look into, something to check out. Like I said, you can get the 3D printers anywhere ranging from $400 to a couple of $1,000. They will range in price and quality, of course. But even with a $400 one, once you get a 3D printer, you can 3D print parts to improve your 3D printer, which a lot of people do.
Like you say, you can get the laser, you can get a variety of different tools for that thing. And I was seeing the other day, I was looking at when we first started talking about this, just little everyday parts that they sell online. People were printing they were engraving on them with the 3D printers, and they work very well for the engravers. There were people engraving, and that was in a small business. They were selling these parts by the thousands. A little bit of robotics, the move your part in and out, and it repeats the product, and it repeats making the product, and you can print off actually thousands. How long does it take? What do you got running there in the background? What size of part you got running?
It's a 3 by 3 by 2 inches.
3 by 3 by 2, and how long is that going to take?
It will take about it depends on the resolution you want, right? So it depends. You can specify for your slicer to slice things up into low resolution or high resolution. So if you want, obviously, the maximum resolutions will take you longer, medium resolution will take less, and so on. This is just taking about 2 hours, and it's a pretty good resolution. You can almost not even see the layers.
Okay, and that's great. So how much? So you're starting to count back the cost right now on what you actually invested into the machine. Now, this part that you're making right now probably would have cost you what?
About $60.
About $60. So now you can start subtracting that from the cost of what you put into it minus,
It's 60 grams of alloy 910. So you can get a pound of 910 for about $40. This is only 60 grams, so it's 1/10. It's only costs you about $4, maybe $5 if you also take into account that it's wearing and tearing, let's say, the 3D printer part, or if some printers are made of very high quality parts, so you can use them non-stop for years.
Yeah.
If you decide to take it into account, let's say it costs you about $4.
About $4 for a $60 part, so you can subtract that from the cost of the machine, and that's if the machine. I don't know which one you bought. You showed, was that the $1,200 one?
Yeah, the 1250.
The 1260. Yeah. So now it just came down to 1,200, and in the future, I don't know how many parts you've made already.
I've been running this machine for almost nonstop for
almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. You said you were rather busy. Getting acclimated to this thing, and you can almost see your cost cut in half right now. So the machine is almost paid for itself by now, huh?
Yeah, and no, it's a great. That was a very good system, very good investment.
Very nice, very nice. I'm starting to. You got me. My mind's going in a million different directions right now. What I could do.
Well, that's the great part about these things. Pretty much anything like I said, obviously this is not, this is not CNC system, but there are very good filaments, carbon fiber, polycarbonate, and these nylons. They're very, very sturdy, very tough. You can use them in real, industrial applications.
Okay, yeah. Now you can add the robotics to that as you go to, if you want. You said earlier you can add a mini CNC to that with
Yeah.
With the right tooling and everything. So if you do need a brass part, you'd put your stock in, the CNC would make the part, and then with the right robotics on it, it can insert it, and then if you need to mold it around a plastic or a nylon around that to incorporate it into your product, it would be very easy, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So brass fittings, brass. I did look at the major thing that I suppose people would need would be nylon fitted brass bearings. So you can do the nylon around it, fit the bearing. It would be a better fit than you're going to get from most any factory, and very cheap. Yeah, you can go a lot of ways with that.
Yeah, there was I saw just recently actually, there's one guy online, on YouTube. You can find a video of this guy was 3D printing a part for a motorcycle out of the nylon.
Okay.
So
Okay,
so he said it came out even better than the original part because he was able to tune it and slightly modify it.
Yeah, when you look at a broken part, that's the great thing. Any mechanic will tell you. I'm looking at a broken part, and I can see exactly where the part failed. Now, with a 3D printer, with a little ingenuity, and you have to have a little brains, I can say, well, this part that I'm going to put in here now, if I strengthen the metal or if I strengthen the material around this area, it's going to last me actually twice as long as the part I can buy from the store.
Right.
Yeah, nice. Nice, yeah. Who's in the room right now? Where did Shining? He just kind of disappeared, didn't he?
Yeah, Shining is, I think he's still somewhere in the chat room, just moderating.
Oh, I forgot to give him the hammer. He wanted the hammer today, didn't he?
I think so, but I think he's there was Zeta there for a while, and then there's Howard there in there as well.
Yeah. I was gonna send send an invite out. I'd like to get Howard Dare on. He's a very interesting guy. Hello, Howard, and then to see what he's got to say, if he feels comfortable coming into the Hangouts one of these days. Howard, and there was a few other guys I sent some invites out to this week. We're always trying to bring in new guys, make it interesting. There's so many different guys that do different things around here, and we all do different things. I'm an EMT by trade. You're a
researcher.
A researcher.
Academical researcher, and with a startup, I guess you can say.
With the startup, and there's once you start piecing these things in and these parts together, like men that think alike in a group. I think it'll be very interesting around here once we get more and more and more. Mgtow's going to get bigger. I don't know if it'll be the Mgtow brand or the Mgtow name, but the idea of men getting together to develop, or purposely just what we used to have, and is men met at clubs and talked about business, and talked about what they were going to do, and how Jim was a structural engineer, and Bob was a cement layer, and Phil was a bricklayer, and Jim Harry did cabinets, and all of a sudden you got a group of men that could build buildings. The idea of getting men together and talking like this is very fascinating. To do what we used to do in life.
Yes, I think for a while, right, we wanted to create or start something that deals with discussing how to form businesses,
Right.
different type of businesses that are available out there, what kind of startups one should look into, what kind of new emerging technologies one should look into, and what would be recommended for younger people. or people in their 20s and 30s, and the type of things that they can look into to start something of their own.
Right, and that's a real Mgtow point because nowadays you get stuck into any hospital situation or HHS situation. If you're working for those people, you're working for the gynocentric, uh, and they will permit you to go only as far as they feel comfortable with. But building your own business. This is the 3D printer is really interesting. Building your own business from we talked about a vast amount of things you can do, and I'm sure we just kind of barely touched on a lot of the things that I could do. And thinking out of the box, what do you do in life? What do you like to do in life? Uh, uh, and bringing it to Mgtow or bringing it in a space like this and talking about it, see if it's feasible and doing it. It opens up a lot of it's very comfortable in life when you're running a business by yourself because you have control. And I think Sandman, in a sense, he said he does it himself and he doesn't rely on a lot of people because he knows if you want to do something right, do it yourself. Do you find that true in life?
Well, to some degree, yes. If you Here's the thing, there's a lot of things you will be able to do on your own, and it's a great thing to be able to do everything on your own.
Yeah.
In some businesses, right, in some things
some businesses
you can't do everything on your own, but unfortunately,
yeah,
in some projects become too large, and when that happens, you have no choice but to use things made by others, or get assistance from others, or collaborating and working with other people, because the project is so large that you simply do not. If you want to be great at something, you can try to be great at everything, but to master any kind of field requires a lot of time. So,
right.
by the age 30 or 40, you might not have that particular area mastered, but you might need that particular area. Let's say manufacturers. Let's say you're specializing in software, but you need something done in hardware, and you just have not had the time yet to become a master of the hardware part. Then you will need to collaborate with somebody if you want things to be done.
Right.
So yes, if you want to do something right, you should do it yourself, and especially if you have the skill set because then you can learn and you can do it. But if you need something done now and you do not have that skill set, then out of necessity you have to collaborate with somebody else, and you will be relying on somebody else. At that point, you just need to find somebody that's reliable.
Yeah. We talk about I think I talked this morning about Burgess individualism and individualism and Jung's theory on individualism. And you can be what we're talking about here with isolation and individualism is you can go too far to an extreme with things. And then you as an individual only have the certain talents and certain what you are is what you've developed in your life. And that's what you're going to be. Now, if you isolate yourself too much from the community, and I hear a lot of this, the isolated male, you're going to need the community at some point. And that's where the Mgtow comes in. We're replacing their community, their gynocentric community, with our community. Now, when you get 4 or 5 men in a group, like I said, you have different talents and different things uniquely people do on their own, their individualism. Now, if you isolate from the community, you're excluding all of that help you can get. That's why I talked about a little bit about the guy I watched he was eating a ball Captain Crunch and smoking some pot, and then he sang 2 songs, and then he was isolated, and he was very, very isolated Mgtow, and he was veering away from Mgtow. He wasn't getting the idea of what we're trying to do here. We're trying to become the system, where you have a whole vast variety of men working together again to take back. They can call it the patriarchy. They can call it whatever they want, but it works better that way, doesn't it? When you can go to if I needed a part, you already offered to make my part for me. I send it down to you. You make my part for me. I build my model, and if my idea works out right, and it just the community aids, and I say, hey, now I can start thinking about buying my own 3D printer, and then I can start printing these parts for anybody that needs them, and the community becomes bigger. And then I start ordering parts from you. You start ordering parts from me. We include 5 other men, and all of a sudden we're making a product.
Right, but plus it shortens the time. For example, I've already done a lot of research with regards to the companies that produce 3D printers, which 3D printers are of high quality, which have an active community, so you can rely on them when something breaks and so on. So you don't have to go through. Now, that does not mean that you should not look into that or any of those domains, because I could have missed something, or my judgment could have been faulty. But at least you already have something to start with, and that will at least save you a couple of hours that you can use then to take this further and maybe even make a better decision than the one I have. Find something better than I have, because then you can just simply leverage what the work that I've already done.
Yeah, the group mind. We all know about the group mind. Anytime you use a group, the mind, the group to think, you're going to get a better product. You're going to get a better idea. You're going to get something that's more plausible. Somebody's going to see where you made a mistake. And with men, sometimes when you do make a mistake, it's hard to swallow that and say, oh, no, that is a better idea. But we work on those things here too. Just talking with men. We usually talk these things out, and then it's we can. That's what Mgtow is all about, getting back to where we're not all fighting anymore, because we're all these last 20, 30 years, it's just men competing for the vagina and fighting over that, rather than working together and getting things done in group settings like this. So that's what Mgtow's about, a little cognitive therapy, group dynamics, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So it doesn't look like Shining's coming back in, and
that's unfortunate. Yeah, but it's difficult to most of the time to even explain something like this to the other person, because in general communicating is difficult between any two individuals, because what you're saying, right? You're just putting things into words, but what you're saying has a much more meaning to you than the words simply say, because in your mind, what you're saying is based on all the memories and experiences of your life.
Right.
So when you transfer to another person, only the words are coming out. And when the other person hears it, he does not have those memories. He does not have those experiences. He does not have all those years of contemplation. He only hears the words, and he might interpret them with a limited or different set of experiences and memories he has. And so transferring a full idea is difficult.
Yeah. And we have sort of a special language here in Mgtow that we all learn. There's a certain way you talk to Mgtows around here, or else they kind of know. It makes that communication much more easygoing, easy flowing. That's the biggest part of most group situations in corporations, or even in small shops to big shops, to the difficulty of people communicating between each other was usually the breakdown of the group, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's something Mgtow has to learn, is how to communicate better with each other, and we will stop losing these men to isolation. It was so sad.
I think I think the issue there is that they just need to figure out what they want to do in life, because you cannot give somebody a goal to strive for. And that the set case you mentioned about some guy sitting on the floor, they're reading Captain Crunch and playing computer games or console games or whatever, that you can't give somebody something to strive for. You cannot get somebody to be excited or about something or a goal in life, that person has to come up with something that's important to him and his own life's purpose, his own
Yeah.
legend, if you will. And
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot give anyone that. They just have to come up with something on their own. Otherwise, they'll have nothing.
Yeah.
I mean,
They.
honestly, what separates us from just simple, animals? Any dog can breed, any rat can
Yeah.
breed, live, fuck, and just eat and die. A man should strive for something more, because if you don't, if you just spend your entire life eating, shitting, fucking, and breeding, and that's it, then then what good are you? For then how are you even better than something like a rat? Then one should
Yeah.
have something more than that, I believe.
Yeah. We have a lot of just. I think a lot of guys just call them mouth breathers. You know, in society that just they take resources and they really don't think about. People have been beaten down in life, but when we talk about subjects like this, about the 3D printing, about business and getting things together, we're providing them with a vision, aren't we? Uh, we're inspiring a vision. We're motivating a vision. And
Yes.
that's sometimes to kickstart, somebody to start thinking about someone instead of sitting there eating Cracker Jacks and, playing video games, motivating a vision in a lot of men that, that won't take a whole lot to start.
No, it doesn't. Look, you skip buying some beer for a couple of months, and or console
Right.
games, and you'll have your couple $100 that you need for a 3D printer, and you can buy filament for $20, and that's it. You literally have a manufacturing facility inside your own house. You can build anything. The rest can be done through your laptop, program, and everything else. And programming, that's free. You go online, you can learn how to program, and right there, you now can make incredible things. And if you don't want to do something that's in dealing with hardware, you don't need a 3D printer. You can just build stuff with software. The Third Fleeing Monkey has made an excellent video once, where he provides you with all the resources dealing with where you can learn about how to program, information security, penetration testing, dealing with hacking, uh, and various methods to protect your computers. You can learn all those skills, and then you can do consulting. Now, granted, you cannot, as soon as you learn something like, oh, now somebody hire me and give me hundreds of thousands of dollars. No,
No.
that's not how it works. But once you learn that, right, you can join the forums. You can create a few programs and put them on open source, upload them to GitHub or SourceForge or anywhere else where people share code, and get a name for yourself out there. Or you can publish a research paper. You do not need to be in any kind of academia. You don't need to be in a PhD program or even go to university to publish a paper. You write a paper, you submit it to one of the journals or one of the conferences. If it gets accepted, there you go. You're now a published author, and that's your credentials, really. And then you can leverage that in your resumes, and then you can do consulting.
Right.
So it's not, you don't need, all these things can be done on your own. A lot of, you don't need to go to get a PhD to start publishing or even writing a book or anything of the sort.
Right.
If your
Just
book, by the way, is good, all you need to do is you know send some chapters of your manuscript to a bunch of publishers from different publishing companies, uh, to the editors there, and if it's good, right, you might even get a few people who will endorse you, maybe
mhm.
from the same community where you publish your stuff or where you're being communicating with other people. And if the editor likes it, you'll get published. And now that way you can publish a book. Publishing this book is also very easy. You can write it in Microsoft Office or LibreOffice,
Okay.
which is a free version, or anything else. So you don't even need anything special for that either.
Yeah. Yeah. If your writing skills are a little, I suggest Grammar Genius. I've been using Grammar Genius for years on anything I want to write because, we men have sloppy writing skills, but if that's holding you back, go get a Grammar Genius. Put it down. It tells you all your mistakes. You can hit the button and, you can fix it and perfect. But
I
vision
disagree.
and,
I think men have great writing skills. The best books, the best really
oh,
everything
yeah.
has been written by men.
Oh yeah, their vision and imagination is 10 times. I read stuff by women sometimes it's so boring and so bland that's it's crazy. But men have vision, men have imagination. We think differently. We 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 think out of the box, and it's more grandeur. And even if there's a restriction, tackle that restriction. There's a thousand different ways to tackle any restriction you have. Get the motivation, get the vision in your head, tackle those restrictions, and 9 out of 10 times you're going to be better off than sitting in the blue pill world waiting for some kind of advancement to come. Because really, there's too many people now. That's not going to happen. No one's going to come to your house and say, Joe, we heard about you somehow. No, that's not going to happen. You got to get yourself out there. And there's only
Now,
one
with
way.
regard, yeah,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
I say there's only one way to do that. That's, motivate yourself and have a vision about who you are. Identify your unique qualities. We all have unique qualities, don't we? Have you ever met a man that didn't have a unique quality?
I met one or two, to be honest.
One or two, and even those guys sometimes they'll hit you with something. They do very well in this world that nobody else can do. Some of the stupidest men that people would just say, yeah, no, that guy's he's not the brightest guy, but he has a vision and an idea that's just he quantifies, and he's the only one in the world that can quantify that idea. We're all unique in that way. I tell the story of I can't remember the cat's name. Back in my early 20s, there was a guy, Bernie Shulman. He started the Mark stores, and this guy came around and he was a junk dealer. He just came around and he started taking junk from stores, and then he started putting together the Silverman's franchise, and he put it in all this junk that he found from producers that were going to get rid of their stuff or throw it out, and he started the concept of the dollar store, I think. And this guy's very successful nowadays, but you wouldn't quantify him as a genius. He just had a vision. Harry Rock. I don't know if you're familiar with Harry Rock, the scrap guy. He started out picking cans up on the street, and now you look around in most major cities on the East Coast, and you see these red trucks, these scrap trucks, thousands of them. The guy's a multi-millionaire, billionaire. He started out picking up cans. He had a vision. He wasn't the brightest guy in the world, but one book. You're one book away from all your dreams coming true, aren't you?
Yeah, I think it's the only thing is just you start something, just try to push it a little further and further and further. I mean, just take it that one step higher, and you can turn hobby or whatever it is that you're doing into business. Even if it doesn't seem like it's a business at the very beginning, it can be turned into one. And if you've been doing it for long enough, you're good at it, and you're interested in it. You can turn it into something profitable, and then your hobby, your career, and your livelihood can be the same thing. And that's a really great thing to be able to where the amount of money you're getting, your revenue is based on just something that you enjoy, and based completely on yourself and how much time you're putting in, and you're enjoying putting time into it. And that's a great thing.
Oh yeah, just doing what you enjoy in life, because it is you. And how can you not enjoy something that you thought of that's individually you and you built? It's better than going to a 40-hour plus job where you're putting widgets together.
Yeah, and look, if you're not the kind of a person that has something on his own, maybe with your friend or someone that you don't have to, not every single business has to be one man kind of ran thing. You can do it in a group. I mean, most of the larger businesses are made, by multiple co-founders.
Right. Yeah.
So
Now
that's something that you're enjoying.
Yeah. Now that's what I like. The Chinese. You know how the streets work in China, don't you?
How?
you have producing. Everything's about producing, and they have so many people that it's
Yeah.
corporations are big, but you got Jim on a street, and the street's name, whatever the street's name for the product, and you got Jim that he welds and he builds tires for bikes, and Bob makes frames for bikes, and Bill's the welder, and Harry's the painter, uh, and then a guy makes seats. That's what he does. He just makes seats for bikes. And then when you're thinking about that street, it goes from one house to the next house to the next house and the next house. And that's what we're talking about. Sometimes in a group, you can get something done that you can't necessarily do yourself. But some guy may be very good about, making pedals and bending a piece of steel that looks like a bike pedal. And then all of a sudden he gets together with all of these guys. And then guess what? You got a product at the end of that. I like to envision Mgtow like that. We got a lot of guys on that street that we need to get all these guys together and build a product. I don't know what our product is here, but it's happening, and that's what about community is, and that's about not isolating. When you get into your community, you stop isolating, you start working together with a bunch of other men, and all of a sudden you got a beautiful product. And
Yeah.
it works. You're doing something you like to do then. Beautiful. That's beautiful. That's the Chinese way. I was reading about, what they do? There's streets called Bridgeport. Bridgeport streets, when they first started taking over or copying the Bridgeport machines. And that's how those things came about. Jim made a door plate, Bob made a spindle, Harry got some electronics, and it went from one, and they shipped it from China to America, and they brought a Bridgeport a lathe. It was a knockoff, but hey, it worked.
Also, an interesting thing, recently in the Mgtow community, we have been having this nationalism, racism. I'd like to mention something. There's actually an interesting thing. A lot of you might not be familiar with this. Are any of you familiar with the great Russian literature? Some of the best ones. It's written by Pushkin. He's a very famous Russian poet. In fact, he revolutionized the Russian poetry and literature. There's even a stanza called the Pushkin stanza.
Okay.
He's written incredible things like Evgeny Onegin, also one of my favorite books. Many others. Are any of you familiar that if you go to Ethiopia, you will find a great statue of Pushkin? Do you know why?
What did he do there?
Well, Pushkin is a great-great-grandson of an Ethiopian that was brought to Peter the Great as a gift. Peter the Great taught this Ethiopian and bred him with the other ones, but that Ethiopian was already, by the way, achieved great things. His son achieved great things. His sons were generals and so on, and every single one, all the way to the Pushkin, who died 3 days after getting shot in a duel, they've all achieved great things. And so Pushkin himself, and that's why he has such curly hair, was a great-great-grandson of an Ethiopian, and that's why you see a statue in Russia and in Ethiopia of Pushkin. So there you go. A lot of people don't realize these things, but
yeah,
just it's an interesting thing.
Yeah, we're getting racism and that stuff pushed on us now, and I think that's coming in from the outside because before when Mgtow first started and for years and years and years, I don't think anybody looked at the race or the culture or the background of the men, because we all had a common problem, and that was gynocentrism, and we all focused on the common problem. It was Common Core, and the Common Core in that was with Mgtow as we were developing, and then somebody during this last year or so said, hey, wait a second, did you guys forget about, and we reminded us. So that's all we're talking about, but all they did is remind us about the world's problems out there. And now it's we talk about it, but I still don't see racism as a problem in here, because I think most of these guys are We're just over that, aren't we?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah, it's a great place to be around here. It's the least racial place I've ever seen in my life. Uh, most of these guys, you're not going to talk. When you're talking, you're not going to know who you're talking to most of the time. There's no faces. Anonymity is provided, and you judge him on the content of his, the content of his character, the quality of his character, and you can judge him on that. But there's no skin involved with who you choose on your. The bigotry and bias is out the door. Uh, But lately, the social justice warriors and I think Reggie Yates started that off, didn't he? Lately, when he wanted to do a thing on Mgtow, but his first take was we're white nationalists, and I don't even know where someone would get that. That's just pulling. That's pulling a bunny out of a hat, there, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, well, I think it's inevitable to have these kind of infightings
Yeah.
within groups. Sooner or later, somebody starts something, and they join for one reason, or they're part of the group for one reason, but they haven't left that either other poison they still have in them, and they bring it into the group, and sooner or later they release it, and then that has to be cleansed out, and you continue.
Yeah, yeah. So we have a little work to cleanse that out and get rid of these people that think that way. But they're always going to come. There's always going to be people out there that's going to try to bring that to Mgtow, and we just got to get better at spotting it and say no, we don't do that around here. We're a group, you know. What do you think of that thing about people saying that we're not a group, we're not a community, it's just an idea?
I think Mgtow is many things.
Yeah.
If you consider it, like I said, as if red pill is information, uh, then Mgtow is the utilization of that information in a particular way with certain rules. That it's the application of red pill for the preservation of oneself and the improvement of the male gender. And then the Mgtow is it a group or something? Well, I think we've been discussing that quite a number of times now, right?
Yeah.
Is it a group or is it not a group? It's a
Coalition.
distributed community. It's a distributed community where if you abide by certain rules, you are a Mgtow, whether you hold that flag or not. If you believe that you are more than just an animal, than just a tool to be thrown away once you've been used up, if you believe that you have worth and you have seen enough in the world that you understand that marrying or cohabitating is not good for you because you will get a blade in your back by the woman that you're with, then you're a Mgtow, whether you know about Mgtow or not.
Right. Yeah. And from there, we could take this thing a long way. You can start little subgroups, communities, like we were talking about. There's things to be done in your life. There's things to be done in all of our lives. Let's get busy. By no means, because a man has been crushed and then ends up here, that's not the end of his life. That's not the end of him. Before, that may have been the end of his. He was just a broken man, and they were getting ready to throw him out. Well, we're like America. We're going to take those broken parts and fix them, and because they have use. They have a collective soul that can be incorporated back into the community, and he can revisualize his life where he can be useful and be useful to himself again. Have a life again.
And also, if you're not a slave, if you're not married or not cohabitating, you will not be a tool that's going to be used up, because you will actually be living for yourself. You will be reinvigorating yourself constantly. You'll only become a tool that can be used up if you're marrying
If
or
you,
cohabitating or any of those things, because
yeah,
then you're not working for yourself. You're not living for yourself. You're literally just little dog that's just waiting to do
oh
somebody else's
yeah,
bidding.
right. I see
And
so
you know
many
what?
men.
It is an instinctual drive, right? In some sense, because due to the evolutionary biology of where we come from. But it doesn't have to be that way, because,
No,
like I
it
said,
doesn't.
you are not a dog. You are not a goddamn insect. You can make your own choices. So that defense does not work. As long as you have a brain, as long as you have frontal lobe, you can make decisions. You don't have to, you know, climb onto the mantis and have your head chewed off, because
Yeah,
your hopefully your brain is larger than that of a male mantis. So you have a
yeah.
choice, unlike the insects.
You have a choice. I'm like, yeah, you have value, and getting men to see their own value sometimes after life after women is because they validate their whole existence through women, and we see it's so repetitive and reciprocal that they keep going down that track. Hey, your value. What about start keeping your value? What that value earns? What about start living for yourself, learning how to be an independent male with a lot of value, with in get into a group like Mgtow, and where you're not isolated from the rest of the world and just beaten. Nah, yeah, I like this idea. I like this idea. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. So in a way, we are a community, a network, a distribution, like Howard says. We're a network of men, but we just have to start putting that together. And that's about it. How's that project coming? Where's it at now?
Very early, still in the very early stages.
Still very. You're just kind of sitting there watching it build right in front of you.
Oh, yeah, it's supposed to, let's see. Oh, actually, it's almost done. I think in about 15 to 20 minutes, that particular part will be done.
Oh, that'd be cool if you could kind of show. You think you better show these guys? You got a way that you can show.
I can send you a picture of it. I can
Oh
take a
yeah.
picture and send it to you.
Okay. Or I could turn on your laptop.
No, thank you.
I'm
Traversable.
gonna turn on your laptop. The shining trick. Your
Yeah,
laptop camera.
yeah, no, thank you. That's
You got
why I
that lock.
usually I have a tape over the camera always.
He did that to you before, didn't he?
No, he didn't. But I'm paranoid enough that I had the tape there from the very beginning.
Yeah, for you guys that don't know what we're talking about, I can click on the settings here and click on his. I can click on his and turn on the camera on his laptop if I just chose to do that, but I would never do that. So he can show you the part. It's a Google. That's a hack, isn't it?
That's very interesting why they would choose to have that option.
Yeah, because that's like you can hack right into someone's privacy, and I don't think they thought about it. I don't even know if they know it, because I'm sure if they knew it worked like that, they would say, "Nah, we can't have that."
Yeah, there is no reason for why the moderator should be able to turn or turn off another person's camera. Well,
To turn off a
actually,
camera.
for turn off, yes, but turn on, no. Turn
No.
off, yes, for the purpose of moderation. If the other person and you have a some kind of a live chat, and the other person just starts taking his pants off, and you have it on YouTube, then yeah,
Yeah, you
then
can mute them.
there might be reasons for turning off the camera, but turning on, there's not a very good reason for that.
Yeah, there could never be a good reason. Yeah. Yeah. So what do we cover? Who do we have in the room here? Women are superficial, like birds, keeping out of the superficial. Yeah, women are superficial, aren't they?
Yes, well, they were never pushed to, and they don't want to, and they can't. Uh, they don't care about anything else. I don't believe that's really what they're biologically interested in. They don't have the
Yeah.
drive for it. They never had to. From the very beginning, the evolutionary chain just never required them to do this. So I don't believe they actually have it in them to do anything more than that.
Yeah, to be motivated to be more. You see a little bit of it now in the Go Girl stuff. They want to be more. They want to develop those.
So they want to say they want to do
They
more,
want to
and they
say they
say
want to do
"go
more.
girl," but they're not actually doing it anything. They copy, and then somebody else says "you go girl," or they do something they saw on TV, and somebody else says they go girl, but they don't actually do anything. Whereas
No,
for our particular gender, from the very
they
beginning,
mimic.
to survive, that what we had to do. We had to invent, we have to create, we have to develop, hunt, work in groups, strategize. Otherwise, those who did not create offspring, did not survive. Whereas
Yeah,
in their case, all they had to do was just really just sit in the cave, spread their legs every once in a while, and that's it.
yeah. Just be the most attractive you can be. That's all. That's the whole goal. And we see that reflected in consumerism. That's it's just mass consumerism at the be the most attractive you can be to attract a male and have him actually take care of you. So women don't really, after it's a one-time job. Uh, all they have to do is do that once, and that's not very. What's that old joke about? What's a man got to do to get laid, and what's a woman? The woman just has to show up.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
that's all they got to do is show up, and that was we seen a recent with what was that lady from Yahoo, Melissa Myers, huh?
I'm not familiar. I've been out of the news for a while.
Oh yeah, yeah. You've been working hard. Alyssa Myers just got she's tearing apart. Yeah, she was the lady that they put in charge over there of Yahoo. She
Uh-huh.
came from Google, and
Right.
her job was just to show up and yell at everybody, and they thought that was going to be good enough.
And how did that work out?
How'd that work out, Yahoo? Not very good. Yeah, I hate her because she took down my sports page.
There you have it. Yeah, well, unfortunately, of course, once the business becomes successful, it takes a while before somebody that you've employed is able to destroy it completely. So now that they're hiring unqualified individuals for the positions, they don't see the effects of it right away because there's so many other people putting in the work and producing revenue for the company. But sooner or
Mhm.
later, the effects start to show. So even if you hire somebody like her, it takes a while before the revenue
Yeah,
shows the effect of how destructive and useless she is in the position that she's at.
yeah. It's parasitical. It's very parasitical, and I call it lighter than air parasitism. They can build a job on top of. If you could take any job and do that to you, if you got a plumber, all of a sudden you can parasite three paper pushes on the top of that, and it all looks like a very cohesive business, but really the plumber is still doing the work.
Right.
And he really had no need for that to begin with, and that's what the GSA does, and a lot of corporations are catching on to that because that's what they teach in college now. How many jobs can we stretch out of this one job? But it always goes back to someone that actually did the work. How many times can we parasitically suck the blood out of that one position? Yeah,
Right, and
and
as long as they're not too destructive, right? A lot of people will
yeah,
not notice that one, nothing is being contributed, and of course they'll always be able to bullshit a little bit of how it's useful for this, useful for that, even though it doesn't show up with regards to revenue or anything with regards to productivity.
right,
But as long as they're
right.
not too destructive, they can
As long
hide
as they're,
within the group
yeah,
of
that was
productive
the
males.
that's the whole idea of parasitism too. We all have certain parasites in our body, but as long as you keep them to a minimal, you're okay. But as soon as you get too many of them, and you're gonna die. Uh,
Right, like that
you're gonna
experiment with the woman who decided to create an all-woman company that after just a few months just collapsed on itself because everybody was pretty much just fighting each other and no work was ever done. That's what happens when you only have a bag of parasites. At the end of the day, it's just a bag of parasites.
it's just a bag
Unlike
of
when you have a
parasites.
parasite in a living host, then it's just an infected living host that still
Yeah.
functions.
Yeah, I've seen a great example of that in life. With it was a men's shelter. One of the guys in the area were running this men's shelter, and it was a very big. He got very big after a while. It ran for 20, 30, 40 years uh, up here, and they had to bring in grant writers to continuously write the grants to them, and them were females in that grant writing situation. One of the females hijacked the grant and walked away with the grant and took it somewhere else. That company went under, but what had happened was two companies had went under then. The original company that was actually doing the work, she never knew how to actually do the work. She just knew how to write a grant and do that lighter than air work and get the money. And she knew how to spend the money, but she never knew how to run the business. It was, and both businesses are gone. I see that so much in America now, where it's not just destroying two business. It's just not just destroying one business. I don't care if they destroy their own businesses, but as soon as they come in and destroy another business along with that, it gets very self-destructive. That's what marriage is like too, by the way.
Yeah.
If a male spends most of his life, building a business, that's what's supporting the family, and then at the end you're getting a divorce, you split it in half, and she's cannibalizing the business. That business ends.
Right.
People get laid off. Other people get hurt by this marriage thing.
Well, that's why I could never figure out why would anybody want to get married. I mean, it's just such a ridiculous thing, right? Especially right now. I mean, it's like, imagine you're starting a business. Would you be willing, with a co-founder, would you be willing to sign a contract with a co-founder where at any time the co-founder can quit the business, take half the stock with him, and then you will have to continue paying the co-founder for the rest of your life? I mean, would you ever sign that kind of contract and start a business with a co-founder with this type of contract? I mean, you'd have to be insane to do so.
Yeah, that sounds a lot like Jim Crow laws, doesn't it? That's the same trick they were playing during the Jim Crow. You can buy your land, but you have to continue paying the landowner. The slave had to continue paying the landowner forever. There's always been that kind of slavery in the United States, and marriage is slavery. If you don't think so, if you've never been through it, I have, and you'll have to pay for years and years and years after that, for somebody that's not really working, somebody that's not really producing, and you are a slave at that point. I just had this. There was this guy in California. He was a major building. He was a building builder. He was a major construction building builder, and he got a divorce. And his ex-wife got half of the business. She right away started cannibalizing this huge business. There were 600 employees. All them employees are lost now. They're all out of a job. One marriage affected 600 other families. It was crazy. It's crazy. I seen this in my local area with a friend of mine. He was employing 400 people, and his wife wanted half. He said, no, fuck it, I'm just going to let it all fold. And he let it all fold, and 400 people out of a job. The community actually tried to get involved with that to prop up the business, but the wife had no idea how to run the business. It was his certain thing. It's one of the things that he did in life. That was he was a welder, and he worked on building the bridges. He was a welder for the bridges. He learned how to fabricate the metal in a corporate situation so he can send it. All you did is send him the specs. He fabricated it and sent it back instead of having to weld the bridge while he was there. That's what he figured out how to do. But that's what he was in life. She didn't know how to do that. There was nothing about that business that had any little mark of her on it. But it's gone now.
It's kind of interesting, isn't it? That's what men do once we start dating. We kind of try to get the woman involved in what we're doing, as if they of course fake that they have any interest. I mean, because they will just mimic whatever it is that you're doing. But we're trying to get them involved, trying to pretend that they actually are good at something that they're not, and trying to give them parts in these things that they have really no role playing because we just want to sort of. I think it's our instinctual thing to kind of share knowledge and information and trying to include people in grander things and that they're working on, and we tend to do that, and that backfires. No good deed goes unpunished, as they say.
Yeah, no good deed. They take credit for everything is what they do. They try to take credit for it, and they even pretend to go as far as they did it. This is I had a friend that did a house. He took an old house. He redid all the woodwork. He redid all the drywall. He redid that. And then as the guests were coming in the house, she was going, "Look what I did."
Yeah.
And he was letting her say that. And she really thought that she had a part in this all this work. And well, at the end, that house will be half hers. So she'll be able to say anything she wants, but she never did anything. It was
now the worst part when you actually go along with that, when some mucus lubricated meat hole says that look what I did when she did nothing, and you say yeah, that's great. Later on, she can use that in court and say, see, he acknowledged I was doing half the work. So you should never one should never go along with things like that. You should say like, what exactly did you do? You did nothing. That's really nothing. Because everything, every time you acknowledge something like this, it will be used in court as an acknowledgement that they've done half of the labor.
Oh, they've done half
and
the
that's
labor.
That's not half the labor. That's nothing. You were slaving away, and she was watching Friends on TV.
Yeah, we see this permeate into the tech sector now. These tech guys that are so driven by pussy. They're putting women into these tech positions, and the men are still doing the work like they always did, and the women are leeching off it and saying, "Look what I did," and they're stealing ideas, and they're stealing. And I'll tell you guys, never share an idea with a female coworker. But they're leeching. They're doing that leech thing, and it's almost become acceptable in our society to do it outside of marriage now because that's how they're so programmed. Makes me sick. They want to, in those situations in the tech, and I can see the gamer gators how they're so upset about that whole thing because you're going to have the same guys doing the work, and then you're going to have these managerial jobs that are going to be filled by females saying, "Look what I did," and they're really not.
Yeah. But it's also difficult, I mean, it isn't also the case that they did, it's tough to say, but did they not bring some of that onto themselves?
They did, yeah. They were pussy begging,
right?
They're willing to exchange their utility for that, and then at the end, you get what you pay for, and that's what they bought into, is they thought that that woman was going to be the Nawalt, right? We all thought we had a Nawalt at one part of it. I thought I had a Nawalt. I thought she was the special one. Until everybody has a Nawalt until the end, and then you realize it wasn't a Nawalt. There was no unicorn. Did you have one of those?
Yeah, when I was very, very young.
Yeah,
we tend to project our own image of Nawalt on whoever we're with when we're inexperienced,
right?
And we see in them everything you want to see until they slowly chip with their behavior and with everything we do. If we're observant, they chip away at this image we ourselves have constructed for them, and then we finally see what they really are. Unfortunately, you need to get that knife stuck in your back by her before you can clearly see things for what they are.
Right, yeah. Things can go for years and years and years before that happens, too. And you never had a Nawalt during that. She might have been destructing your life in so many different ways, but men don't see it until that knife goes in.
And you never know. I mean, you only caught her at the very end with somebody else, but she could have been banging 20 guys in the middle, just never seen it because you were at work, working day and night.
Working day and night,
it's only a matter of time. I mean, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. That knife will go into your back. She will put it in your back. As soon as there is an opportunity, While she still says you can add more and give more to her, she will not do it. But as soon as you trip, as soon as you fall, as soon as she sees something better on the horizon, that knife is going to your back, and everything in your pockets are going to get cleaned out, and she's going to be out there,
Right. Yeah.
leaving you on the floor bleeding.
Yeah. My wife told me she was the monogamous one, and I'd never seen it. And that blue pill mask you pull off your face at that point, that inhibits your vision of seeing what's going on. I never thought, right up to the end, I never thought that she was cheating and she was seeing other guys and stuff like that. But when I look back, I go, oh, fuck, yeah, I knew it. I always knew it, but I didn't want to tell myself that. I didn't want to. That was one of those hard red pill moments. Yeah, she was just another woman that was, just another tramp, that was running around behind my back, and they're all the same. And but that was a hard thing to swallow there. Because we have egos, don't we? We have huge egos. Blue pill men have definitely the biggest egos on the planet, because that ego can blind a man to what he believes is his very soulmate cheating on him. He'll tell. How many times have you seen a guy in a life where you knew his girlfriend was cheating on him, and you told the guy, and he's, no, she would never do that to me. She's that special creature.
Very, very often. In fact, I think we just discussed this, I think last month. Remember, I told you I have this had this friend. He's a graduate student, and he was dating this girl, traditional Asian girl, for 5 years. And we were shipping something out, and we were deciding. He said, like, there has some kind of argument or whatever, and he was messaging. I told him, stop messaging her. And he's like, oh, she's not gonna show up here from New York or something. And I immediately knew, like, she's probably already here. She was already cheating. Anyways, a day later, she was already here. She was on a date with somebody else, and she's actually marrying some other guy. And now she's married to another guy. So this chick that he thought they were exclusively together for 5 years, and he was gonna be marrying her, she just found somebody apparently better, and married them right there and then. So it's she was playing both of them.
Yeah,
and at the very end, just decided to choose that one instead of this one, and that's it.
Oh yeah, I've seen them hundreds of times in my life, and it's that moment at the end. And some of these guys will go into the next relationship with that same mentality. Even seeing it, he denied it so greatly that the next one was going to be the Walt, or the next one was going to be the Walt. I see guys go through 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The 7 times in their life. By the time you get my age, you're gonna, and you look at these older guys that have been through maybe 30, 40 relationships, and they all turned out the same way, but they're still saying to themselves, yeah, she didn't cheat on me. No. Man, you can watch this your whole lifetime with some men.
I don't know. I think if you haven't seen it if you haven't realized it by the end of the first such incident, and what you hear around, you probably will never be able to be pulled out of the matrix.
Yeah, that matrix is blinding. It'll blind you to, and these guys are still telling us that his old lady's the Virgin Mary. She's the best thing that ever walked on the face of the earth. She's the special, right up to the time it ends. There's always going to be that clarity at the end, and then even that clarity at the end goes unwitnessed to the very person it affected the most. Wow. I am so glad I found Mgtow, and I'm so glad I found men's rights. Through men's rights, I found Mgtow. Or Mgtow was created during that time when I found men's rights, and I gravitated to it. But man, just saying these things to some guys,
it's if a person keeps falling for the same thing, then I doubt that person can really absorb the red pill.
I don't think they can. There's a certain you got to go through a certain process. I don't know if you even got to go through a certain process. Some people say you have to be wounded to absorb it.
I don't believe so. I think you just need the whole thing is very logical. It's you look around. It's not like you have to fall from a third floor building onto the floor to understand how gravity works. You can simply read it, understand it, do a couple of experiments, and you will see that gravity works. You do not need to jump from the third floor and break your legs. The same here. There's nothing special about it. Look around, look at the statistics, think about it, and yeah, that's their nature. That's it. I mean, move on. Nothing really special.
Yeah, that's a small idea to get used to, but the whole world's fighting against that small idea that we're saying women are all a walt. They're all that same way, and their nature is every single one of them's that their nature. We got the whole world fighting us against us, and then still living it out daily, looking at it, living it out daily, and then ignoring all the facts that we're giving them, ignoring the they are ignoring the very process that they probably had to experience once in their life before. Craziness. It's crazy. I think it's mental illness. I don't know if it's mental. I often say that blue pill people are mentally ill that need to be pulled out of this mental illness, the matrix. And, I get some arguments on that, but I think it's a mental illness. There's something in the water, isn't there?
It's definitely not everybody seems to be able to, or maybe they just don't want to believe it. I mean, some people just are okay with just following, and just as long as somebody tells them what to do, they don't care. You also cannot expect that everybody will actually have a goal or an ambition for something else. So you will always have that percentage of individuals who just needs a mommy to tell them what to do, and every once in a while throw them, a piece of meat in their direction.
Yeah.
So
everybody wants.
And those are the worst kind. Those are the white knights. Those are the manjanas. Those are that will stab you just as happily for the purpose of preserving their imaginary beliefs.
Their imaginary beliefs, yeah, they will hurt you. Yeah, the white knights will hurt you if you get in between that. I mean, I know most of us older guys have had a buddy that you had to tell, hey, I think your girlfriend's, not being right. She's cheating on you, and then all of a sudden you're blocking a few punches, or you can get hurt doing that. With these guys, their delusion goes deep, and it goes violent very quickly. They don't want to come into the red pill world. They don't want to see the truth of it because of that pussy payoff. I think without that, they're lost. Without that validation, they're lost.
And if you think for what, Jesus Christ, so you can stick your appendage into a piece of meat that was some mucus in it, and stick it a couple of times and pull it out. I mean, that's your great wow. That's congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations. That's quite a skill, huh?
Spending your entire life working on somebody just so that they can spread two pieces of meat apart, so you can stick one of your appendages in and pull it out a few times. Wow. Yes. Yeah. That. What a great reward for that.
Yeah, like Liberation X's latest. Get a dog. If just get a dog and stop. A dog will love you more than a woman will ever love you.
Well, yeah, at least a dog understands what loyalty means, and what love means. Yeah, whereas a woman does not. It's just not part of their. They just don't. It's not a type of neural circuits they require to evolve. That's just not something they needed. So they don't have that type of mental setup, because it would be counterproductive to the environment that they existed in, because they needed to switch between one alpha to another alpha, or to anybody else who could provide for them the resources. So as soon as somebody else has more resources, that means more offspring will survive. So they will jump into that, and they will forget you within hours. So the love is just it. That type of neural circuitry does not exist in them. They did not need to evolve it. They do not understand it. They do not experience it. Same thing with honor or loyalty, because it's counterproductive for the survival in their particular environment, for their type of behavior as a parasitic organism that requires to latch on to someone who has resources. If you survive by latching on to somebody who has resources, honor, loyalty, and love, it will only prevent you from doing so, and will prevent you from surviving. So they do not have those things. They could not they could not evolve them. It could be, any female would somehow through mutation would have the ability to have something like that, would die out because she would produce less offspring than females that were able to jump from one man to another man to another man to leech off as much resources as possible and manipulate.
Yep. Hey, speaking of manipulation and mimicry and parasitical actions, do you think women are going to figure out how to get into the 3D printing thing? Does it make it that easy? You kind of breached on that before, that it might make it that easy that
There will
women
be
are going
plenty of guys that will help them out. And there's going to be a bunch of guys doing all the work, and they'll just be all thinking that, oh, if I do a little bit more work, maybe she'll spread her legs for me.
Yeah.
So there's already that. And actually in the quantum community, there's already one woman who's 3D printing parts, developed, by the way, and open sourced by men, and she's already 3D printing them and offering them. And of course, a bunch of, and this is, a highly techy kind of field, and a bunch of guys already, flooding there over her and like saying, oh, this and that, oh, they're such great designs. Where it's like the designs, you can see that those designs are the open source design from the open communities made by men and released like a year or two ago. So
Yeah.
she's taking like open designs and selling them. So it's already happening.
Yeah.
They're already it's already that simple. All you have to do is just load the design and press print, and that's it. And like I said, there's going to be more than the number of guys just happy to be on her leash and do whatever difficult work is required to be done, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, there'll be the simps that are going to simp for that, and then they'll find out at the end, that she's not that Nawalt that has any altruism. Men have altruism. I don't think women have conscience by concern. There's a difference there. Altruism, we're altruistic to a fault. We give of ourselves to a fault, and that's what men have to stop doing, giving of themselves to fault. Women have conscience by concern. Whatever concerns them, that's what their conscience will bend to that. There is no honor there. Like I said, dogs have more honors than women. It's simple biological, and that's it. And that's the way it works. And unfortunately, it's going to get into that too with the 3D printing, and there'll always be a simp ready to sell out and sell his brother out, and provide that little bit of programming or that little bit of knowledge, get her by what she doesn't understand. And they're going to make it so easy that all you have to do, you'll probably sooner or later here, all you'll have to do is buy a disc, slide it in your computer, and there'll be little pictures. Women just use pictograms and everything. Just press the picture, and then boom, it prints.
Yeah. But I mean, we see that everywhere. Anytime there's, let's say, a group of men working on something, one female enters that group and the dynamic completely changes. They're starting to compete for her, trying to do this, penis measuring contest begins, and everybody's trying to, go through the whole dance and thinking that they're gonna fuck her or something. It just the whole.
Oh, the plumage dance of the peacock. Yeah, the peacocking is almost. Oh God, can't take it no more. I exclude these men from my lives because these men will sell you out at the drop of a dime. If you're in
without
business,
even realizing it. Without even realizing it. They won't even think twice about it.
Yeah, they won't even think that they'll be. It's like looking at a stupid creature when you're trying to. You sold me out, dude, and then they're going, what? I didn't do that, because they don't know they're doing it. It's so embedded in culture. They're taught to do this in school as children. White knight and all that stuff. That's what they learned through the formative years of K1 through K8 is how to be a disposable utility. It's embedded into their soul. It's imprinted, Oh boy. Okay. Well, we've been going on almost
2 hours.
2 hours. Yeah. You think it's about palatable now?
Oh yeah. Yes. Let's then wrap it up. My part is done. the 3D printing part.
Okay.
So I'm gonna see how that part came out, and I'm gonna send you a pic once I clean it off from the printing bed, and
Okay.
show it to you. Should be interesting. That one, like I said, it was done in the Alloy 910, so it's should come out really nice.
Okay. So if you want to see the pic later, we'll post a pic of the machine, the product that he was making while we were speaking, and that's how easy it is to get into this, man. Couple $100, stop smoking or stop buying girls drinks and use that to buy a 3D printer. And that's about it. You guys take care. We love and care about each one of our Mgtow brothers, and do good, men. Thanks a lot.